through your Italian citizenship application appointment day.
It was quite an experience. You need to bring a sense of humor to that appointment. First, I checked in at the consulate, and I didn't have to wait too long before I was called to another window, and the administrative officer got right down to business. She asked if I was applying for Italian citizenship. I said yes, and right away I was asked for the payment in the form of a money order. The application fee is posted in euros on the website, so you need to make sure to convert it into US dollars at the current exchange rate. A week before my appointment, I rechecked the website for the application fee and found it had increased by $16 because of the exchange rate. I already had a money order made out, so I emailed the consulate for their advice, and fortunately, they said I could bring the balance in cash or with a second money order. Then I had to show my current passport and driver's license. Then next I was asked for the application forms. I was applying for Italian citizenship through my maternal grandfather, so the administrator asked for my grandfather's Italian birth record, followed by my grandmother's birth record, and then she asked for the grandparents' marriage certificate. Then the administrator looked through the records in detail and made note of every word, name, and date. Then she asked for my grandfather's immigration documents. I had hoped that all my documents would be perfect, but she wasn't happy that the typing on the document was almost illegible. Then she asked for the USCIS copy of my grandfather's certificate of citizenship. She pointed out a discrepancy between the marriage dates on the petition for citizenship and their marriage certificate that I didn't catch, but fortunately she accepted it. I was glad I didn't have to make yet another correction. And then she asked for my grandfather's death certificate. Well, I nervously took out those forms that I knew had name and date discrepancies, and right away she noticed the name Russell instead of Orazio, and she asked, "What is this Russell?" Then she saw the 23 May 1905 for his birth date and said, "What is this birth date?" I tried to give her some of the other documents to show where the dates had come from, but she didn't take them. All she said was, "The death certificate completes the life of my grandfather, but it isn't required for the application." So I did all of that worrying for nothing. Then she put all the documents I gave her in a pile, and then she asked for my father's birth certificate. Fortunately, I had that with me and passed it to her, but I didn't have it translated nor apostles. Then she realized that I was applying through my mother, so she said, okay, she needed my mother's birth certificate instead with that translation and apostille. So I passed my mother's documents to her, which satisfied that requirement. Then she asked for an application form number 4 for my mother, but I didn't have that one filled out. I only filled out one for my grandfather. Then she explained to me that the citizenship passed from my grandfather, then through my mother, so if I wanted to obtain citizenship that I needed to fill out a form 4 for her as well. Fortunately, she said that wouldn't be difficult to take care of. I could submit that later. Then she asked for my parents' marriage documents. Everything was fine with those. Then she asked for my birth certificate. And that's where I got surprised. The administrative officer identified the translation of my birth certificate didn't match the birth certificate I submitted with the apostille. We had a little conversation about it and agreed that the document must be corrected, and I had to order the correct document and have it translated. That was my mistake because the state of Virginia has 2 different applications. The first application allows you to request the long form birth certificate and apostille together in one step. The other form is for the birth certificate without an apostille, so I ordered one of each. And when I got the birth certificate without the apostille, I sent that for translating. Even though it was a long form birth certificate, it wasn't the certified extract long form that I needed. So that error was due to my inexperience. So after the appointment, I had to reorder my birth certificate with the apostille again and then get that translated. Then she asked for my marriage documents. I gave her my current marriage license with the apostille and translation. Then she asked me for the marriage certificate. I was flustered and told her I didn't think I needed the certificate, that I only needed the license. She explained that the license was only a document that granted permission by the state of Nevada for us to be married, but it didn't show the actual marriage date, which was on the certificate. I previously obtained the marriage certificate and had it apostilled, but I left it at home because I didn't think it was needed. Again, another error due to my inexperience, but I could turn that in later. Then she asked for my husband's birth certificate in long form. I guess she wanted to make sure he was the father of my son. At that point, I just sighed because I didn't bring that record with me either. I said something along the lines of, I feel so stupid because I was preparing for this meeting for over a year and now I didn't have all the correct information. So she finally made a kind remark that, like, it's okay, you're now on Italian soil and it's a different world. And she also mentioned the Italian bureaucracy. I said I would be glad to come back if needed, and she replied that I might not have to return and that she might be able to work out something. As you told me, Lucia, you know by now that it's the Italian way to say no first, point out the negatives, and then work out something. So I highly recommend bringing all the documents that you have to your Italian citizenship application appointment. It's better to have more documents than you need than to be missing something on your appointment day. Then she asked me for 2 additional documents which I didn't know I needed. She wasn't surprised, though, that I didn't have them. These documents were some bureaucratic details the Italian consulate needed regarding the divorce. The first document was a form to request the registration of divorce decree with the city of Leonforte, where my grandfather was born. Fortunately, this form was both in Italian and English, and the administrator gave me a few tips on how to fill it out. The second form was in Italian and is titled, I can't pronounce the Italian, but it's Dichiarazione Sostitutiva dell'atto di notorietà. She gave me some help filling out this one as well. Next, she said I also needed to obtain a certificate of no appeal for the divorce. The Italian government evidently wants absolute positive proof that you're not married to 2 people at the same time. The administrative officer half apologetically told me I needed this document even though most states don't provide it. So she said any written statement from the court or the Los Angeles archives would work. Then she made some remarks about the Italian bureaucracy. Finally, she noticed that I included my son's name on my application, so she asked for his birth certificate, which I gave her with the apostille and translation. Thank goodness these documents were fine. Then I held my breath, waiting to hear what she had to say about my application. Her final remarks were, the most important papers were about my grandfather and my mother, through whom I was applying for citizenship. Then she said my application required additional documents to complete my file. At first, my heart sunk, but then she said I had enough documentation to open a case. She would put my application on hold until I could mail her the other required documents. I was so relieved that she accepted the most important documents, and I only needed to order a few more. That would save me another trip to Houston. Then she typed up a letter with a file number and list of documents that I needed to mail to her all at once. We both signed that letter, and she gave me a copy. She would keep the other documents for about 4 months until my son turned 18. I told her I understood and that if I didn't have everything to send her before my son turned 18, that I would leave out his birth certificate document and he wouldn't be eligible for Italian citizenship along with my application. So the clock was ticking again. That concluded the hour-and-a-half appointment. I left the consulate, got an Uber, and went to the nearest gelato place. When I got home, I spent the day putting together the remaining documents, making calls, and priority mailing out requests for documents and corrections with priority mail return envelopes. Fortunately, that didn't take much work. Regarding one of the documents I received, a name was incorrectly spelled, so once again I had to quickly fill out yet another correction application with priority return envelopes and fees to have that corrected, then apostilled and translated.
It's important to keep in mind that each consulate varies in its process of handling applications from beginning to end. So it's important that you go to the website for the consulate in your jurisdiction and read the information very carefully before making your appointment.